Cap, what's the word?
Morning, John. Doing all right. How are you doing?
All right. It is okay. So, in the first half hour of the show, uh, we were discussing Tony Romo. In preparation. We were discussing weighted blankets and how they confuse me. Like I said, real insightful stuff here in the first half hour. But because that's usually we have a segment. The opening kickoff is just kind of stuff that might pop into my brain, like before we come on the air. And then Jarrett and I bounce it around with everybody and try to figure out what's going on. But yeah, the Tony Romo stuff about preparation and how he's not the same guy. And Andrew Marchand in the New York Post writes an article where apparently they had an intervention. CBS is like, no, we talk to our talent repeatedly. There was no such thing as an intervention. So we talked about Tony Romo and preparation in general and weighted blankets. All right. So let me get your thoughts on weighted blankets here. Do you have one? First and foremost.
I do not have a weighted blanket. No, I don't like weight on top of me when I'm sleeping.
Okay.
I'm one of those people that like the first thing I do when I get into a hotel bed is untuck all of the sheets from the bottom of the bed because I don't like the tightness on my feet or anything. And so, I usually sleep with just a sheet or a light comforter with no sheet.
Okay, because I'm the exact opposite. Because what I want to do is, especially in the winter months, I want to try to stay warm and keep from my calves cramping up in the middle of the night because of the temperature change. And so that's why I started doing it that way. And I will swear by weighted blankets now because it gets me to sleep faster and all this kind of stuff. But the one thing I've yet to figure out, and since you untuck your sheets, you don't have this problem, is the way that it is in the bed. It is sheet, it is electric blanket, then it is weighted blanket. When I wake up in the morning, and I mean this is every morning, literally, the weighted blanket stays where it is. It is locked in. It has not moved. The sheet and the electric blanket go 180 degrees in opposite directions. And so it's like the sheet is going one way and the electric blanket's going the other way. And the weighted blanket's just kind of sitting there going, bruh, doesn't move.
That's an impressive weighted blanket you have there, John.
It is. I don't know the physics involved, and I'm literally petitioning people that know weighted blankets and what they do. It's like weighted blankets just kind of sitting there going, yeah, we're good. I don't know about y'all, but we're fine. Mm-hmm. But no, it's so okay. So you're not a weighted blanket guy, and it is a curtain call for physics. It is literally it is a siren call for anybody that understands the physics of this, because I have to spend another 10 minutes every morning fixing the bed because everything has gone 9 different directions. Anyway, hi.
Hey there. I get the premise of weighted blankets. I just don't need one because I'm one of those people that like I'm in bed. If I'm not asleep within like 90 seconds, I'm like, what the heck is going on right now?
Okay.
It's a rarity. But I get the concept of weighted blankets.
Yeah. So Atlanta United is in camp in Mexico, and we mentioned weighted blankets. Hey, you're training in Mexico. That way you're not training in 12-degree weather or in rain or in crap. I get the idea of training away from home. When it came to training when you were playing professionally, we've talked about drills that you like, drills that you don't like. Is there something that you would have changed or that you have been able to change now that you're mentoring that you would rather have focused on during your time when you were training? Or is there something that folks might have missed out on that you want to focus on? Is there something, if you were the major domo of training, how would you address training for professional athletes or athletes that want to improve their game? How would you be the guy to sit there and say, okay, here's what I think you need to do as a part of your game plan?
Wow. What a loaded question to start the day. Holy smokes.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think, a lot of it depends on age group and, level and what you're going through. But, I think that the most important thing is having a plan. You've got coaches out there that have a plan of what they're doing, and and if the players understand why they're doing what they're doing, you get a much better buy-in than if it's just random stuff that you feel like is just going on. And like some days you're completely exhausted and, they're pushing you hard, or, you just want an idea of like, okay, what's the purpose? Why are we doing this? And then you get better buy-in from the players, and, they're able to give it more, I think. but development can be different. There's a fine line between pushing yourself and doing too much, and finding that is different for everybody, and increasing that ability to handle the load. I think fitness is something that I've seen a lot of players that think they're fit and they're not fit. And I was one of them for a lot of my career. Like I played center back, so I maybe had a little built-in excuse. But when I changed to outside back, I realized like I'm not fit enough, and I needed to get a lot fitter. And I think a lot of players would benefit from being more fit. You could never be too fit.
So then, how do you? Let's go down this rabbit hole here. How do you thought you were fit? I guess define how you thought you were fit and what else you needed to work on to be the kind of fit that you needed to be. It's like, okay, you had one path and you thought, okay, I'm cool, but what else did you need to work on? What was the difference?
Just the different types of fitness. Outside back, you're doing so much more longer running, more continuous running. Center back was just like sprint here and then jog a little bit and then stand and then sprint and then, stand for the 20 seconds, 30 seconds. And then, this constant sprint recovery, where outside back was like longer running and up and back, a lot more nonstop. So just different types of fitness. I'll be honest, I was never a long distance runner. And when I look back, I wish that I had done more long distance running earlier in my life and earlier in my career, because the first time I went for like a straight hour run was in Germany when I was playing there. And it felt like we were running for 3 hours. And it was a slow pace, just run. But I remember like asking after like 30, 40 minutes, I thought, well, how long are we going for? Because I feel like we've been here all day.
Do your mentees understand the idea of being different fits? To put that in quotation marks, it's like, okay, being fit for outside back is different than being fit as center back. Do they understand that there are different kinds of fit that you need to be?
Some of them, depending on the age, but I also think that, some players, and I get it, you can only compare yourself to your teammates, and you think, well, if I'm getting through a game right now, I'm fit enough, which might be the case. But to understand, it depends on what your goals are too, right? Because every level you go up, it gets more intense. There's more running. There's more high intensity running, which is a different type of fitness. And so being able to adapt to that is important and crucial. And it's something that we can control, right? We talk about a lot of what can you control and what can't you, and fitness and being prepared to put the work in absolutely is one thing that we as athletes can control.
When it comes to listening, is listening different for today's mentees when it comes to advice? Because, obviously you're there, you and Greg are there to help, and you want to have athletes, regardless of what their goals are, to improve, to be the best that they can be. Is listening even different for mentees of today than, say, the folks that you were around that might have been in that same age group a couple of years ago? Is there more of a purpose listening? Is learning the same, or has learning changed even in the last couple of years, I guess is what I'm trying to ask.
It's changed a little bit. I think you have to garner their respect a lot more. I think that when I was a young pro, right, if somebody that had come in and had real success wanted to share what helped them and what they did right and wrong and stuff, I think I would have been like, shoot, tell me everything, please. And I also think that was a time where it was like rookies kind of knew their place. They were put in their place and all that stuff. And the younger generation's different. It's just a different world for them. And so I think that that's one of the benefits of and we've talked to Atlanta United Academy about this, because they went back and forth about maybe having a sports psychologist. And I said, that's great. I'm for sports psychologists because I think the mental game is important. I said, but there's also something to having somebody talk about it like myself or Greg, who has been there and done that and gets what these players are going through on a daily basis and have had success where they're trying to go, even though we obviously don't have the degrees. And, so some sort of combination I think is great, but garnering the respect of those young kids before you're just trying to give them lessons and, know-hows is pretty important.
Because and on two different fronts. I mean, there's that level of respect, and I would imagine that there might be some athletes who are younger who might look at the older athlete and sit there and go, "Oh, he's X whatever is on the driver's license. Oh, he's over 30. What does he know about what I want to do?" And I think that garnering respect, yeah, you can look at somebody on TV and look at their resume and know what they've done historically. But I still think that there might be those gaps where it's just like, what does he know about me and what I need to know? I mean, is that part of the respect part of this also is just getting past that first notion of, yeah, I've been there and yeah, I know. And believe me, when I tell you what's going on, I mean, that's got to be part of it too.
Yeah, totally. Again, the fine line of like trying to tell them where you've been and what you've accomplished to get a little bit of that respect, but also downplay it and, make them understand like we're here for your benefit, not our benefit. Right. Our career on the field is over. Yours is just starting and we're trying to help you have the best career possible because it's the best career anyone could have if you're able to do it. And so, sharing a little bit of both things and just, humanizing it and making them feel like, hey, we're here for you guys. We're trying to help you. And, it's a little easier in Atlanta United because most of the kids still know us. But when we go to other clubs and, work with other schools and things like that, it takes a little bit more.
And at the same time, you mentioned sports psychologists. And I think that has grown in the last 20, 25 years. I mean, the Atlanta Braves in their years of success when they were winning all of those, division titles, they had a sports psychologist for their pitching staff. And Dr. Jack Llewellyn was, well known here in this part of the country for helping out athletes who needed sports psychologists. And then there would be place kickers who one comes to mind, Al Del Greco, who was at Auburn and had a career in the NFL. He did sports psychology, and it would help him with field goals and PATs. And it would be just something as simple as a trigger word. Dr. Jack gave Al a trigger word, birdie, because Al was a golfer and he wanted to be a fantastic golfer. And he was very, very good. But Dr. Jack took that idea of, okay, in golf, what is succeeding? An eagle or a birdie? It's better than par. You're under par. So if you want to succeed in golf, you're thinking birdie. And so that would be the trigger word for Al from a sports psychologist. Okay, I'm about ready to kick this field goal. I'm thinking birdie. So I think that the stigma in sports psychologists and sports psychology, I think that may have drifted away over the last little while to say it's okay to ask for help in a situation like that.
Yeah. And, there's different things in sports psychology, right? There's definitely the help notion of like, you're going through a tough time and you need to talk to somebody and need a hand and need some help. But we've seen some big time athletes go through that. But there's also the edge that sports psychologists can provide, right? It's not like you're in need of help, but you don't know that you can have an extra edge based off of your mental side of your game and becoming a little stronger and more aware. And, I was able to work with one at IMG in high school. And I thought it was really beneficial to me at a young point in my career or journey, not even career yet. And so, yeah, I'm all for them. I think the brain is so powerful, and obviously, it was one of the biggest tools that I had when I played. It wasn't my physique,
but I mean, you learned what you could do. You learned, you knew your limitations. Sometimes you would want to probably try to exceed your limitations and sit there and say, I can push past this, and I can still do what I'm doing. But you knew what you could do, and getting that extra push, getting that extra advice can, I guess, add depth to your knowledge base and your personal feelings about your accomplishments and what you think you can do. Because you mentioned that idea of being able to play up your strengths, and having that someone who doesn't know you and doesn't spend 24 hours a day with you, they can sit there and get that first idea of who you are and see what your strengths are and add to those strengths. And it's just something as simple as positive reinforcement to sit there and say, yes, it's right there in front of you. Just keep working with what you've got there. Positive reinforcement, whether it comes from a sports psychologist or you and Greg, that can go miles too.
Totally. Absolutely. It's incredible how far confidence can take you. Confidence alone. And, that's a fragile word, right? It comes and goes, and everyone deals with bouts of it. But, confidence alone is so important. It can totally change an average athlete into, a very good into elite. That's a big one. And that's all mental, and it's a skill. It can be worked on and improved. Man, some of these comments on the side, by the way, about these fitness tests and running, I'm like, oh, golly, I do not miss any of that. They're glad I didn't have to go through that. No. Carrying benches around while you're running. I remember when I was with Atlanta and Tata, we had to, they were still of the mentality sometimes of like wearing like a weight vest when we were doing fitness and like jumping over stuff. And they had us wear a weight vest during a possession drill one time. And we were all looking at each other like, you've got to be kidding me, right? Like, no chance.
So how did you do with the weighted vest during the possession drill, sir?
I'm pretty sure I may have flexed the armband instead of not doing this. I'm more valuable if I'm able to play than if I'm injured, and I don't see this benefiting me. So pass on this one.
Yeah, it's like I'm gonna go captain's armband pass. It's like I'm gonna take this. It's like you get the one challenge flag in the NFL. You sit there, you throw the red flag out there, and it's like, nope, this is my challenge. I'm using it. This is my get out of jail free.
Yeah.
When it comes to lack of confidence, since we mentioned confidence, let's I guess work on lack of confidence and building confidence. When it comes to your mentees, how many of them have those bouts where they're unsure, and I don't want to use lack of confidence, but they may just be unsure about their path and what they're trying to do to be the best that they can be? How unsure are mentees these days that you guys come across?
Yeah, I'd say a lot of them have that, and that's easy to have, especially if you're not in the top tier, right? If you're not at Atlanta United Academy, right? Because everyone views that as like the highest benchmark, right? Of trying to go pro or trying to go to college, right? And so if you're not there, like, okay, then you've got other options, SCCL, ECNL, MLS Next, like different clubs, different coaches and all this. And, yeah, for sure. A lot of kids are wondering, am I doing enough? Am I on the right path? Am I, can I get there? And I was telling them, like, personal development is by far the most important thing, especially under the age of like 13. And so if you've got a coach and you've got a team that are pushing you to get better, then you're fine. It doesn't matter if you're playing for Atlanta United or if you're playing for, Inter Nassau, name X club. If you've got a good coach where you're learning stuff, then you're in a fine spot.
But at the same time, even professional athletes have those bouts of a lack of confidence. And, we talk about sports psychologists and trying to push through it. I mean, it's obviously, I would imagine it's something that you saw in bits and pieces as a professional athlete. And I'm sure that you probably had those times when you might have been having a lack of confidence yourself in what you thought you were able to do out there. How do you, as a professional, outside of all of these different things we've been talking about to help athletes through, how prevalent were those lacks of confidence that you got to see in your peers?
Yeah, some more than others, for sure. And somebody that struggled here and there with it, which you would probably not really think of, was Joseph. Yeah. And even this is back in the heyday when he's, the best striker in the league by far. If there was a time period, and there wasn't many, right, where he would go a game or two without scoring, I could see it, that it was affecting him. I could see it in training. And even if he was scoring on the weekend and then had a day or two of bad training, then I could see like, okay. And I remember there was a few times where, and times when I was like, I'll let Joseph score here. Like, he needs confidence, and this is more important for him and for our team. And so it's kind of like, half in it. So to try and let Joseph, get his confidence back. So, it's just an example of somebody that's at the very, very top, yet can be fragile sometimes of that confidence. And it is not just him, right? There's tons of players. And it's one of the biggest crushers of careers, especially young careers, right? Of young players that are turning pro and then all of a sudden aren't starters for the first time in their life, and their confidence is down and they're not playing, or they're coming off the bench every now and then, right? And what that does to your confidence is tough. And even like you said, as me as a pro, right? Of times where like I had a bad game and now I'm building out of the back, and all I'm thinking is like, oh, last couple games, right? I've made a mistake and it's led to a goal or led to a chance. Like, I should be a little safer, right? And all of a sudden, like, you're playing a little hesitant, where I'm not trying to skip 2 lines with a pass and all those things. And, it's crazy how something that you've done for years repetitively can all of a sudden seem so difficult and like give you pause before doing it.
How do you get through the yips like that? I mean, other than just mentally sitting there and pushing through, how do you get through the yips, whether it's helping out Joseph or helping out Miggy, when it almost turned into a meme about Miggy, not having the output that he had, and he would just keep missing and missing and missing. How do you get through the yips?
Yeah, I think that the first thing that when I work with mentees is before the yips occur, the biggest part is not letting, when you have a down curve, not hitting the bottom, right? And we talk about like there's a baseline and then there's highs and lows of emotions. And when things are good, you're not aiming to be on top of the mountain. You want to be in between that period of top of the mountain and the baseline, where you're enjoying things and you're celebrating and stuff, but you're not aiming to be on cloud 9, because more people that aim to be on cloud 9, when things go poorly, slide all the way down, hit the bottom, and then crash. And then your confidence is really, really difficult to get back once you're at the bottom. So a lot of it is preparation beforehand. But if you're in a situation where you're already there, and how do you get out of it? I think that visualization can help. I think that, seeing yourself have success, watching old film of yourself having success. We talk about journaling with our mentees so that you can look back in your journal and remember, oh yeah, I was good at this. I was good at this. These are my good games. Focus on the positives. And then when you're out there on the field, you just start small, right? Do things, play to your strengths, and slowly build that back up, right? It's not an on-off switch where you're going to go out there and all of a sudden, boom, I'm confident today, not yesterday, confident tomorrow. It takes a little bit of time.
And you get that first positive moment, which you want to try to lead to a second positive moment. And then that gets you back out of that lull if you hit bottom. And it doesn't turn into that labor of Sisyphus, where you sit there and you're working your way up the hill. You think you're all the way up the hill, and then that one moment happens and everything comes all the way back down into the valley. It's like it's building blocks instead of trying to make it that one big swoop and get you up over the hill and get that boulder rolling with it downhill where it's easier.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. And it's the journey, right? Of, climbing that ladder slowly so that, when you fall, you're hitting those steps on the way down. You're not just free falling, because that's a bad place to be. And you'd be surprised how many athletes I played with that, after each game, it's the bottom of the barrel and like, what are we going to do? And, how are we going to burn this thing down and start anew? And, I do think that honestly, we had so many in Atlanta United that was one of the reasons why, if you look back at like the first 3 years or so, of how many times we came back from a losing position to win games, it was very, very low. And I do think that mentality had a lot to do with that.
What's it like in those situations when you're down, but you still have that cloak of invincibility that you've built on because of confidence and because of all those external factors? What's it like to have that, even though you're down, you're like, yeah, okay, cool. We got work to do. We know we can do it. What's it like to be that confident in a situation?
Yeah, there's no better feeling because, nothing just gets you off that high seat, and that I'm saying that high seat, not cloud nine, but that feeling of we're okay, we're fine, we're where we need to be right now. We're not where we want to be, but we're where we are for a reason, and we can get ourselves out of it. And just knowing that, until the final last whistle, right, we still have a chance. We can still get ourselves back into this. And you know what? If it doesn't work out, hey, it was just an off day and no problem. We're going to get the next one because, we're good. And we've got this group mentality of, bouncing back. And we had that mentality as far as bouncing back because we didn't lose too many multiple games in a row, but that in-game mentality is important, for individuals and collectively as a group. And sometimes that can be tough. I mean, you look at somebody like the Columbus Crew last year, the amount of games, the amount of points they lost in the last 10 minutes of games last year was incredible. And so much of that is mental side of things, the mentality of like, it's the 82nd minute and we're up a goal, or it's the 82nd minute and we're tied. Like, don't let this happen. Don't let this happen. Right. Instead of like going out there and like, oh, let's finish this game off. Like, confidence. Oh, we've got a lead right now. Game over, lockdown. Right. It's just, it's a mentality.
And at the same time, that team that's going up against you, if they can sense that you've got a case of the uh-ohs or that you've got a case of the yips, that team that you're going up against, if you feel that insecurity, they can pounce on it just as easily and get past you again, as we saw with the Crew last year.
Totally. Absolutely. Teams, I'm sure, talked about it. Hey, if we're down, we're not out against these guys, right? They give up late goals, right? They give up late goals. And that just feeds into the confidence of the other team thinking, okay, these guys falter late. So just stay in it. Just stay in it. We're still there. Absolutely.
All right. So high school season is off and running down here at SDH and here in the Southeast. What's high school season looking like for you and Greg right now?
Good. We're just trying to get out and speak to as many as possible. We understand a lot of these kids have big seasons ahead, big goals for themselves and for the group. So we're just trying to assist how we can. And that's been fun. We always like hearing questions that these kids ask on the field, off the field stuff, boys and girls teams. We try and work with both. The girls teams are always more interactive than the boys teams. I don't know if that's just personality wise or what, but it's always fun to see different groups and how they interact with us and the questions. And, so it's really, really enjoyable for us.
Very, very cool. And is there any truth to the rumor after the beginning of our discussion this morning that we're going to have Rhode Island FC betting sets and weighted blankets available in the store anytime
soon? That has not been talked about, but you never know. That's a good idea, John.
Then let's talk RIFC before you go. How are things? Obviously, can you keep things in the store? Is it still storming off the shelves? How's it going?
No, yeah, I think inventory's back up and we're good, which is great. We've got I'm actually headed up there next week to interview our top candidate for our head coach position. So hopeful that works out. So we'll be in a good spot if that works out, we think. So yeah, exciting stuff.
So when this individual, whenever they are named, I assume you're going to break that news here on the show and bring that individual on so we can have a conversation.
You know what? I hadn't thought about that. I'll have to ask some of the other group members, but I'm sure we can make it happen at some point, John, getting this individual on with myself.
The breaking news from Michael Parkhurst, the new head coach at RAFC, will be on SDH on a Friday morning. Captain, thanks for hanging out with us for another week here. We will catch up with you soon, my friend. Go get some lunch and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you. Appreciate it, John. Have a good one.
You got it. Michael Parkhurst hanging out with us. And it's always fun to catch up with our friends at Beyond Goals. So you heard it right here. Michael Parkhurst. There's going to be breaking news with the new head coach at RIFC. Whenever that happens,